My name is Janae. Welcome, welcome. My name is Janae, and I'm with Dallas Pets Alive. We are a foster-based animal rescue that actually recently, kind of now, we have a shelter at the Humane Society of Dallas County, and it's actually primarily cats. Um, and we have been around since 2012, and we started out as an all-breed dog rescue, and here we are. And most of the time, we have more cats in our program than dogs, especially during kitten season. And we realized that we needed a little behavior support and help focusing on our feline friends. And that's how we got connected with Molly. And today we're going to be talking about harmony in the home. And Molly will take that away. And I have to show off my two little children. The orange one is habanero. Oh, that's my jacket. And the Siamese looking one is Nashville. And we adopted them, brother and sister. I thought I wanted one cat, and we had to keep the gang together. And we have been doing extremely slow introductions to our home and to our dogs. They're actually just this week starting to come downstairs and venture out. So harmony in the home is happening, and it does take a long time. I know that. I'm sure Molly will share that. So we've been taking it super slow to make sure that everybody's comfortable. And I see a lot of fosters in here and some adopters, so I'm excited. And Molly will take it away.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, we're going to talk today about introducing cats to dogs, introducing, of course, primarily to other cats, because that's the biggest thing, but dogs, kittens, which is a little different, and children, right? And other family members. So we're gonna definitely talk about all that. Now, when we did this, I wanted to do this where, okay, here he comes, where it was for both potential adopters, someone who either hasn't adopted a cat yet and what they need to know in order to get the introductions right and why that's a big deal. And also for fosters and adoption counselors so that you can help communicate to your potential adopters what they have to do to make it successful because nobody likes returns. It's so stressful on a cat to be adopted into a home and then return back to the shelter. So we really want to avoid that. I would say probably the number one reason for cat returns to a shelter is, it wasn't a good fit or didn't get along with the other cats, fighting with the other cats. So it's a huge reason that these cats come back to us. And we really want to avoid that if we can. And we do that by setting them up for success from the start. So let's get us here. Let me get us, and since we're recording this, let me see if I can move us over here. Hold on, that's not working yet. Bear with me. I'm going to put me over here. Okay, here we go. All right. So I not only wanted to cover, what to do to make cats and other family members, four-legged and two, integrate smoothly, but I also think it's super important to make sure that they continue to get along, especially the cats, after that successful introduction period. I can't tell you how many of my behavior consultations are this. In fact, I had one yesterday afternoon where I pretty much gave this seminar to the couple because it was a young man and woman who moved in together. She had two cats, he had a cat. And a year and a half later, his cat is still sequestered and nobody's getting along and they're having lots of cat fights in the home. So it happens often, way too much for my liking. So I'm glad we're doing this. I'll have a place to point them. And as promised, church is going to scream the whole time. Sorry about that. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know me, I am a certified feline training and behavior specialist. I'm a certified cat behavior coach through the Association of Behavior Consultants. I'm fear-free certified trainer, and I'm a certified Reiki master. I also teach Reiki on animals, cats in particular, and we'll probably be trying to do that as an online class. Look at this attention-seeking behavior going on back here. He's going to climb on my shelves because he knows there's breakable things up there, and I don't like that. And so I've volunteered in shelters for decades, and when I first started volunteering, I volunteered at the SPCA of Texas for years, and then I started volunteering at Dallas Animal Services, which was at the time the third largest shelter in the country. And at the time I started there, it we had about a maybe 35% live release rate, which meant, we're euthanizing 70% of the cats that came through the doors. And so behavior was a big part of that. And I thought, wow, how do we get that number down? And so I started a nonprofit called Cat Behavior Solutions as a shelter diversion opportunity so that cat parents would have resources like this webinar to go to try to keep cats out of the shelter. Then I started Feline Right at Home, which is a free course to shelters. So if you work with the shelter and they're not enrolled, this helps volunteers and staff learn how to make cats more adoptable, the ones that end up in there and that are stressed. And then I host a weekly podcast called Cat Talk Radio, which has all kinds of resources for cat care. So be sure to share these resources with your adopters. There's a good search function in the podcast section so you can find topics to share with them. So today, what I'm hoping you're going to come away feeling confident about is understanding feline social behavior, why it's so hard to introduce cats, how to select or recommend cats, select for yourself or recommend cats for other people that are going to be well matched, and what those components are, how to prepare the environment to support the decompression and the successful introduction, and how to implement and guide others through that introduction process to the cats, like I said, to kids, to other adults in the home, how you're going to recognize stress and conflict early so that we diffuse it before it escalates into a real issue, and how to either coach or self-manage through challenges with hopefully empathy and patience and practical tools. And then how to promote long-term harmony in the home. Again, how do we keep them? How do we keep the cats getting along? How do we keep the dogs getting along? And empower your fosters and adopters through these transitions with confidence. I want you guys to know that this works, and it really does work. So let's start with, because I think it's so important to understand why is this an issue? Why is this introduction, integrating a cat into the home so hard? People come in to adopt cats and they're like, I'm just gonna come get a cat, take it home, let it out of its box, and we're gonna all live, happily ever after and waltz into the sunset. And when it happens like that, that rarely happens. And we need to talk about why. Because when you understand why, it helps us to have more realistic expectations about what's happening. So one of the things that I think it's most important to understand is that these house cats we live with have evolved not much. They still have about a 98% DNA link to their wildcat ancestors. They haven't really evolved physically or emotionally. So one of the most important things to know is that they're a solitary species. If you let a group of cats out in the wild, not in an urban setting where there's colonies and feeders and things like that, but in a rural, natural habitat for these cats, they're solitary. They do not hunt together. They do not share prey together. And sharing spaces doesn't come instinctively. If you let a group of dogs out in the wild, they're going to form a social unit, and they know and understand inherently social hierarchy and how to get along with one another. Cats simply don't have that in their DNA. It just doesn't come naturally to them. So we have to help them through this process with a very gradual introduction. Okay, hold on. I have a giant cat in front of my screen. So, what can we expect? I think cats really have what we call social tolerance for one another. They have a very fluid home where things change in terms of there's not a solid structure, there's not an alpha cat. You may have a cat that bullies the other cats more. You may have an insecure cat, a dominant cat, but we don't typically have an alpha cat because that's more of a solid structure that stays. Whereas cats living with one another is more tolerating each other and spaces, and they may not become bonded pairs. It may be that they sleep in other rooms, and that's okay. It's perfectly okay, and that's also within their nature. So body language and scent and territory really make a huge difference in how cats get along with one another. We're going to talk a lot about that later in the webinar today. And the instant friendships are super rare. When they are, it's usually a kitten meeting another kitten and or two kittens that are brought home together. And even then it doesn't always go well. I've seen kittens, fight with one another because that's their nature. You're not part of my space and you haven't been. So, and especially when we're talking about adult cats, it's really rare to bring home an adult cat and have it just instantly bond with your cat. I don't know of many of those instances. So let's start with how do we get a cat in the first place? Choosing a right cat for the house. It's real important that we're matching the personality of the cat, the age of the cat, very, very important, and energy level with what's going on in the home already. So it's important too for your expectations. It's important to coach potential adopters that what you see is not always what you get. Cats deal with stress in shelter and foster settings very differently. And when they get to a home in a different environment, often they'll act differently. And so if you've got a cat that's real quiet and shy in a shelter and you get it home, it may not be that quiet, shy cat that you thought it was. And so it's important that people know that we're only seeing a snapshot of this pet's personality. And when it gets settled in, it may change and they need to be okay with that. Dogs, obviously, pairing cats with dogs, believe it or not, is a lot easier than pairing cats with cats. I think it's important that an adopter know their dog. Has the dog been around cats? Does the dog have a high prey drive? A lot of times that's not easy to determine. Maybe a dog trainer will be able to help you with that. But cats usually are good at going, nope, I'm the boss. And then it's kind of over as long as a dog is not in their face. But it's real important to understand that. And of course, are there other cats in the home? And we're going to talk about what that means. And are there kids? You don't want to have a 12-year-old senior cat with a lot of needs with little kids running around. That's probably going to stress the cat out. Or a cat that's had a lot of trauma in its history, dealing with a high energy home is very stressful for them. What other family members are there? Is it a stable home? Do the family members come and go? All those things are real important to understand before we try to pick the right cat for the right home. And matching that energy level of the two is real important. If you've got a chaotic home, a chaotic cat is probably a good match. Quiet, routine, older home, older quiet cat is probably a good match. And availability. How available are the family to be with the cat. You have cats like Church that I'm fostering. He needs a lot of attention. He's not going to be happy with a home where he doesn't have a lap to sit in all the time. So, all of those things we need to understand about what's going on in a household. So, for you adoption counselors and fosters, guiding adopters to making the right choice, there's some real key elements to this. I used to be a retail sales trainer, and one of the first things we would teach people is to know your inventory. You can't possibly match a person with the right thing they're looking for unless you know what you have available. So get to know the cats in your care. Obviously, if you're fostering, you know that cat pretty well, but if you're working in a shelter setting, get to know them all so that when someone comes in and is looking for a cat, you can guide them to the right one. So show up to a shift early, spend that first 30 minutes doing a quick run through, reading kennel cards, doing a little poking through bars and things like that, just to kind of gauge the response and action so that you kind of know what you have in your setting to even offer. Ask open-ended questions. This is so, so, so important. If you ask, if you ask a cat to get off your desk, so you want to ask what other pets are in your home. If you ask, do you have a cat? You're going to get a yes or no. Not, you may not find out that there's 4 cats and 6 dogs and 3 gerbils. So, what other pets in your home are going to give you the whole list of what they have in the house? You'll want to ask, what's a typical day in your home like? If you ask, is your home real calm? You're going to get a yes or no. Where what you really will get is a lot more information if you ask an open ended question. An open ended question starts with who, what, when, where, why, or how. Nobody can answer those with a yes, no. They give you more information. So when you're thinking about talking to people and asking them, make sure that you're leading that with, somebody wants me to shut up. You're leading that with an open-ended question. Why are you looking to adopt a cat is one of the biggest questions you need to ask. And I used to lead off with it. And the reason is because I found that 80% of the time people would come into the shelter and say, well, I'm going to get a buddy for my cat. And I'd say, what is your cat doing that makes you think it needs a buddy? And he'd say, well, because, he's just sleeping all day and looks real bored. And I figure if he had somebody to play with, that he would be happier. And then I'd launch into, well, it might not work out that way. Your cat's probably bored because you're not playing with it enough. The cat's probably bored because it needs more mental stimulation. Not that we want to talk somebody out of an adoption, but they need to know that when they bring another cat home, it's not going to be an instant buddy for their cat. I think most people operate out of what Jackson Galaxy likes to call dog colored glasses. We see pets, cats in particular, as if they're dogs because we tend to know more about dogs. And dogs, a lot of dogs do need a buddy. And that's a good social thing for them. With a cat, it's not necessarily in their nature. And so having another cat in the home may not fix their cat's problem. So dig a little deeper as to why they're adding a cat. Um, Check your notes, history, availability of the cats that are in your care carefully so that you don't let someone fall in love with a cat that's not available. There's nothing worse than that. Checking the history is very important because there's trauma sometimes in a cat's background that we need to understand. If we have a cat that just got off a behavior modification program, we need to understand that. Notes will include, overstimulation history and things like that. Always explain the 333. 333 is usually, and the 333, for those of you that don't know, is the settling in expectation kind of guidelines. And it's usually included in their adoption packet, but people don't go home and read that adoption packet cover to cover before they let the cat out. So it's real important to explain to them that your cat's new cat is going to be in shell shock for 3 days trying to figure out what the heck just happened to it in a new environment. It's going to take 3 weeks for that cat to learn the routines in the home and kind of adjust to the environment, and a 3 full months for that family to be able to see the cat's true personality. So they need to know that this takes time. This cat is stressed, and we have to help guide them through that process. So for an adopter, being really honest about your household's activity level and pets is super important. I think it's very important for adopters to think what's going to be going on in my life in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. If in 15 years I'm going to be in a nursing home because I'm, I don't know, 75, 80 now, and we'd all like to think we live forever, but that's not the case. Do I need to really adopt a kitten? Maybe I should be adopting a little older cat. Think about what's happening. Do I have chaos in my home now, but all my kids are going to be off in college in 5 years? Think about how that cat is going to fit into that house. So, one of the things I ask people in adoption counseling is how many other people live in your home? And, who are they and how old are they and things like that. And then you can kind of get an idea of what's going to happen. But ask adopters to be honest about that. Understand the time commitment, especially for cat adoptions. People often think that cats are aloof, they're independent, they don't really need us. There's some truth to all of that, actually. But the reality is, if a cat's going to thrive, we need to commit time to it because it is a time commitment. And do you fully understand and can you manage the acclimation process? A lot of people go, yeah, I know that's the way it goes, but I can rush through this. It's not going to take me that long. My cat's cool. He usually likes other cats. It's not going to take that long. It can take a very long time, and they need to be really committed to it. If you have a family where everybody in the home works, it's harder to manage the process because they've got full lives. If you have a young family with young kids and everybody works and nobody's home during the day and you're trying to acclimate two cats, that's a very, very hard process to manage. And be patient. Don't rush it. That it's like finding someone to marry, right? You don't want to rush that process. You want to find that forever match. Know that this is a commitment for this pet's rest of their life. And so make sure you're taking the time to find the right one. If it's not right in front of you today, it will come along. So the 333 that I mentioned um, is very, very, very important. I have a 333 guideline sheet, and if you want mine, it has QR codes to the introduction webinar process and things like that. You just email me, Molly at catbehaviorsolutions.org, and tell me you want my 333 sheet, and I'm happy to send it to you. You can print it off and share it with adopters. But what this does is it tells what the cat is doing and then what the adopter can be doing to make the cat feel more at home during these time frames. One of the most important things is establishing a routine. Cats have confidence through routines, and that's because cats need to feel in control. And so when they know kind of what to predict in the environment, then they can kind of calm down and not worry about when the next meal's coming, not worry about when their litter box is going to be cleaned or when playtime is. Establishing a structure and a routine with that new cat is so, so, so important right off the bat. Feed them like you're going to feed them after this introduction process is over. do everything at kind of the same time and way that you will after this 333 time period is over. Remember that all interactions need to be gentle and led by the cat. Everybody wants to get home and get their new cat and be all like, oh, I want to cuddle, I want to, and the cat's like, whoa, 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 I'm just trying to figure out what this place smells like. So be very gentle, let the cat come to you, let the cat lead those interactions. And certainly don't introduce kids or other pets right away. We'll go into that later. And let the cat lead always when it feels comfortable enough to progress to the next step of interaction. So, preparing for the arrival, this is a lot like creating a nursery when you have a new baby coming. Now, we don't all have the luxury of taking a room and dedicating it entirely to the new cat. This is a little unrealistic visual here, but it is ideal. But you got to pick a room in your home that is, we call a sanctuary room. It's that cat's decompression space. It's where that cat is going to spend at least the first 3 days away from the other pets in the home. And it can be a spare bedroom, it can be an office, it can be any type of place like that that's relatively quiet. But it also needs to be a space where you have contact. So, like for me, I'm in my office, and that's where I have my fosters. And you'll see my gate from my office later in this. But I set up my foster sanctuary room so that I have church cat hair all over me, sorry, so that I can spend time with them and socialize them and let them come be with me when they want to. But it can also be a bedroom. Whatever it is, it needs to have a closed, solid door at first. Okay. And it needs to have, of course, the essentials. And a lot of people will coach, oh, sanctuary rooms where you put the litter, food, and water. But it needs a little more than just the essentials. That cat's got to have the opportunity to do its natural behaviors, and that includes a scratching post, places to climb, things like that, so that that cat can feel comfortable and like it's settling in and be placing its scent in that room. Obviously, maintain normal routines. It may not be a normal routine if it's a spare bedroom because you probably don't hang out in your spare bedroom and you're making time to go hang out with the cat, but hang out with the cat at times of the day that you will once he's integrated, in the evening, mornings, things like that. Minimize stress with calm music, feel away plug-in scents, any little tips and tricks like that to just help the cat calm down. And spend this time bonding with them. Get to know the cat. Let the cat get to know you. Also, you'll know what's normal in this cat's life. What does this cat do? How is its energy during the day? It's going to start to unfold, and you'll be able to see that. So we get the cat settled in, get the space set up. We bring the cat home. We put the cat in the space. Now we need to get ready for the introduction to the other cat. So we need to have a barrier between this sanctuary space and the rest of the house. We start off with a closed door. We don't want those cats seeing one another. We want them to be able to smell one another and hear one another through a closed door, but it's really stressful for them to see one another. So we start off with a closed door. And then we prepare a what I call a visual barrier. Now I use this gate. It's about 48 inches tall. I think it may be a little taller than that. And you can see behind it, these are sliding panel doors. So that could be just a regular hinge door, or in my case, it's a sliding panel door so that I've got a closed door, but I also now have this gate and I'm going to cover it completely. And I'm going to clip it, right? Sheets are lighter weight. You can lose lots of different things rather than a gate. You can actually install a screen door. There are, if you're worried your cat's going to sail over a gate, and they do make them like 72 inches tall, and this gate is easier because it's a walk-through gate. Trying to stack baby gates is very cumbersome because getting over those to feed the cat and get in and out, it's a mess, and it leaves more opportunity for oops meetings that you don't intend. So anything that you can clip a sheet to, in this case, I used a towel and I used binder clips to clip it at the top and the bottom. And if you can see here, I have it clipped at the bottom so the cats can't get underneath. If your cat's real persistent, you may have to have lots of clips on the bottom. Now, you want to make sure that good things are happening at this gate. Um, and Janae, if you want, I see we've got comments in the chat, but I don't want to stop and read them right now. So if you want to monitor that, and if there's something that I should talk about in this moment, please jump in and say that. But what we're doing here is we're counter conditioning inherent behaviors. We already talked about how inherently cats don't get along. And so it's in their nature to drive out a territory invader. In the wild, they're going to live in a very large space and mark that territory and keep other invaders out, other cats. And they're going to be very defensive of potential territory invaders. So then this is what your cat is going to think of your new cat, that cat's trying to take over my territory. And the new cat's thinking, oh my gosh, here I've been plopped down in the middle of another cat's territory with no way to escape. I've got to be super defensive about this, or I got to fight for my territory. So naturally, there's bad things associated with the sight of the other cat. So we got to make sure that there are always good things happening at this barrier. Now, you want to start to feed the cats on either side of the gate while it's covered. This particular image I'm showing you, you don't want to take the towel off immediately and start feeding. You do want to start feeding the cats on either side of the solid door the minute you get the cats home. You want to feed frequent meals. Now, I will tell you to not feed dry food for the health of your cat, but it also gives you an opportunity to feed frequent wet meals and have your cats bond more often. So, if you're going to insist on feeding dry food, and I have other webinars and podcasts about why, and you can email me and we can have that discussion. But feed frequently. So, feed at least 4 times a day, 30 minutes after you get up, around noon, when you get home from work, supper time, and right before you go to bed. And if you work away from the house, put a timed feeder at that gate so that the cats still have an opportunity to eat. It's not necessary that they be right up against the gate. Remember when I told you it's not in their nature to hunt together or share prey? So we don't want to do things that are going to stress them out, that are against their nature. So at least 4 feet, if not farther. These two cats, this is a client of mine, and these two cats, they were seeing stress if they saw one another. So these cats know the other one's there. They can hear them eating, they can smell them. They don't need to see them, but they do need to eat on either side of the gate. And again, the goal is not to be really, really close. If the cat refuses to eat because it's so stressed about the other cat, make it set up like this where they're just out of sight. Maybe it's around the corner, close enough to the gate that they know that other cat's there and eating also, and that good things are happening when that scary territory invader is around. Have playtime at the gate. Get wand toys and do your prey play, which you should be doing every day. And if you're not, it's probably why you think your cat's bored and it needs a buddy. So do prey play every day at the gate. Again, the goal is not to lure the cat up to the gate to the face of the other cat, but to have something good happening 3 or 4 or 5 feet, 6 feet back away from the gate as it knows the other cat's there. And maybe the other cat's even watching, which is fine. But good things happen at the gate. You can toss treats. towards the gate. Again, you don't want to toss the treat where it goes absolutely up to the gate and now they're face to face and there's hissing and spatting and things, but in the general direction of the gate, toss a treat so that that cat goes towards the gate and something good happens. Very important that we're doing this while the gate is covered. All right, so this is happening. Let's say you've given your cat 3 days. You're setting this up. All these good things are happening at that barrier as we go along. Now, another thing that we need to do is we need to know that um, these cats are going to be confrontational. And what starts a confrontation between cats is staring. And so we need to control the confrontation in a couple different ways. And the first way we control this confrontation is to break the stare. So it's okay that cats look at one another as long as they're blinking and looking away and look around, and then they'll look at one another. And then, but anything that goes on as a stare longer than a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 count with no blinking, usually the head lowers a little bit, that's a stare that you need to break because that will just escalate the stress in both cats, the one that's on the receiving end of the staring and the one that's doing the staring. So the way that we do that is we teach look through a positive reinforcement process. You can do it with clicker training if you're used to clicker training, but you don't need to. There are other ways to do it. You can call the cat's name, and when they make eye contact, you say, good, and you give them a treat. And then they'll learn every time their name is called and they look at you, they get a treat. And so, of course, you'll have sessions of this throughout the day. You can also do a game called Super Bowls. And the way this works is you place 4 bowls about 3 feet apart. You stand at the first bowl and put a dab of treat in it. I usually use the lick and lap, and I just dab a little bit of lick and lap in it. And then you wait for the cat to look up for you because usually once they eat the treat, they go, wow, that was good. Is there more? And then you go, good. And you give them another dab. And then you move to the second bowl and you wait for the cat to come over to the second bowl and look up at you and give them a treat and repeat. And here's what that looks like. So you want to take 4 bowls, put them about 3 feet apart, dab or put a little bit of a treat in the first bowl, wait for the cat to look up at you and make eye contact. Good boy. As soon as he does, say good and move to the second bowl, wait for eye contact. Good boy. As soon as he makes eye contact, move to the third bowl, wait for eye contact. It's very important you ignore unwanted behaviors. So just be patient and wait. So he's learned that making eye contact gets him a treat. Now I'm going to add his name. So as soon as he looked at me, I said his name. That's how we do Super Bowls and train making eye contact. So pick one of those methods of how you want to train. Cats love Super Bowls because it makes them feel like they're in control and it's a fun little game you can play with them. And so they learn that when you call their name, that they look at you and great things happen. It's very, very important you have a high value treat when you're doing this. If they're full or they're like meh about the treat, then they're not going to participate. So deli turkey works good. I find the lick and lap works great. Whatever their, oh my God, I have to have it treat is, that's what you want to use. So what's going to happen is when we get to the point where that visual barrier is exposed and the cats can now see one another, if the cats, either one of them, are staring at the other one and it goes on a little too long and it's uncomfortable, you can break that stare. Now, a lot of people say, well, a cat's just too intense. It's not going to look at me while it's fixated on that other cat. And that may be. And if that's the case, then wad up a piece of paper and toss it over there, or a ball or something. Anything to get that cat to look away. Anything that's good. Don't squirt it with water. Don't yell, anything like that. It needs to be a good thing, a fun thing. There goes a toy, there goes the one toy, something like that. All right. Now, the second thing you have to control that's super important is the lunging and chasing once we're at the face to face meeting part. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to harness train the cat that we think is going to be the aggressor. We don't know because the cats haven't been face to face yet. Hopefully, if you're one of my consults, they probably have, and we know all too well who the aggressor is. But let's assume you're doing things right and these cats haven't met face to face. They haven't even seen each other. We're doing all this before they even see each other. We need to be able to control the cats. So harness train everybody, just so that you know. This is going to control the physical aggression when we get to that point. Cats have a super long memory. This is why they say that they are smarter than dogs, because they retain information longer. And so if a fight happens between your cats, it's going to set you back insurmountably sometimes. I mean, it's just not something you want to have happen. Don't take the chance on it. Don't skip this step, okay? So choose which cat or cats to train and you put the harness on them. Now, I use these H style harnesses that you see here on Church, and I like it because you simply set it over the cat's back and then you can easily Velcro under the chest and the body. So it's super simple to get on. It's not like the Come With Me kitty harness where you're having to thread legs and heads through, which is a good secure harness, but a little more difficult for a cat that may not be comfortable in it. It's very important that you do this harness training not at the gate. Do it away from the gate. We don't want this uncomfortable new thing to be associated with the new cat. This is something separate. You do with the cat, just you and the cat. So you get the harness on the cat. You want to allow time for them to desensitize to it. So by that, what I mean is we're going to put it on the cat and we're going to leave it on the cat for at least 10 minutes, no matter what it does. And then the next time we're going to leave it on for 15 minutes and then 20. We're going to increase that time the cat is wearing the harness each time it's on it. Now, the best thing to do is to pair that with something great. Again, we're going to counter condition their feelings about this harness. Now, what I like to do is get one of these lick mats. It's got suction cups on the back so you can put it on the floor, you can put it on a wall, and then you put a bunch of Lick and Lap or their favorite treat in it. And while they're eating it, you put the harness on, or you give them a treat or a meal while they're wearing the harness. That way they eat. Like Church is extremely food motivated. So when I put the harness on him, I let him wear it through a meal and he becomes much more comfortable with it. Now, it's very important that we ignore any weird behaviors. And again, extend the time that they're wearing the harness. And you want to do this until the cat is extremely comfortable. They're just going about their normal movements and day wearing the harness. And when they are, attach a leash to it so that they kind of get the idea of what it feels like when you're pulling against it and controlling where they go. Let them explore in the harness and leash. Maybe you can take them outside if they're comfortable with that, but let them kind of get used to that so that they know what that is. And again, very, very important to ignore these silly antics. This was Church's attempt, at trying to get the leash off. He's rolling around, trying to kick it off and doing silly stuff. Just ignore it. Your cat may freeze and fall over. That's okay. It's not killing it. It's okay. It will get used to it. Pair it with something good. Get the lick mat out and the treats out so that the cat has something good to focus on while they're in this uncomfortable straitjacket. Now, scent layering. So it's very important for cats that live in a multi-cat home to create what we call a community scent. Each cat has a unique scent, and their scent is all over their body. Their scent, they have scent glands in their feet, in their butts. They have it in the course on the sides of their faces, so when they rub on everything, between their toes, when they're scratching, scent glands along their flank, tops of their heads. They have scent glands everywhere, and it's super important to a cat that its environment smell like it. So that's why cats rub on things. It's their attempt to feel comfortable in their environment. So each cat has a unique scent, and when they live together, they must have a community scent. Think of it like a perfume. You have notes of rose and bergamot, or in this case, notes of church and pico and fluffy and whatever it is, to create this community perfume, this layered scent. If they don't get the opportunity to create layered scent in all the spaces, then they will feel like one space smells just like that cat. So we do swapping. We swap spaces. And what that means is your new cat has settled in to its sanctuary room. You want to swap spaces, usually probably starting after that third day, fourth day, fifth day. You'll know if you have a cat that's hiding under the bed and won't come out. Obviously swapping spaces at that point is a little too soon. So when a cat's out and comfortable with you, start swapping spaces, which means your cat will not have run of the house and your cat or cats will be confined to the sanctuary room. Do so that they get a chance to scent over each other. Don't move beds or boxes or toys or things like that. We want them to be using each other's things, scratching posts, stuff like that. It's very, very important that they get an opportunity to scent over each other. You need to, oh, and of course, this is the time when so many people go, oh, they accidentally got out while we were trying to swap spaces. Okay, no, that cannot happen. If you have a oops moment and the cats get out and there's a huge fight, then, you are so far back to square one and beyond. You're in a deficit at that point. Now you have to overcome this feeling that every time they see that other cat, they're going to be in a fight. We don't want that. So no oops meetings. So be careful how you do it. You might have to put one cat in a carrier and take it to another room and close the door and then herd the other cats in there and then let the cat out of the carrier. But be responsible and be careful about this space swapping thing. Don't let any oops meetings happen. Now, they need ample time in each other's space. This scenting over each other doesn't happen in 30 minutes. They need long periods of time. So whatever works with your household schedule, it might be, it's a day-night thing. It might be one day and then the next day. The couple I met with last night, they're going to do every other day and let the cats spend 24 hours in each other's space. But it needs to be good long periods of time. Now you're doing this when the door is shut and there's no visual. You're starting this space swapping right away, just like you've also started feeding multiple meals at that barrier door, and you're still training look and training harness all at that same time that this swapping is going on. So once we've been swapping a while, everything I just talked about is going on, then it's time to lift that barrier a couple inches during a mealtime. Usually I will put the meals down first and then lift it just because cats are really anxious to get their food and I don't want that amped up energy as now they see each other and now you've got staring going on. So put the food down and then go ahead and lift that sheet or towel or whatever you have curtain covering it about 2 inches. You can see here I've just clamped it up a couple inches. Gauge the cat's reaction. Watch very carefully. If there's, constant hissing, lunging, swatting, they go to them, they're like, and they're reaching through and trying to get to the other cat. It's too early. It's not time. That's the cat telling you that this is too stressful for me. I'm not yet ready to see that other cat. Put the curtain back down and wait some more days before you try it again. It will be okay at some point as long as you've had plenty of good things going on at that barrier door and you've been swapping so that the scents are getting even all over the place. If the cats won't eat, if they just refuse to eat now that that is up an inch and a half and they walk away, they slink and they run for the couch to dive under it, then put it back down. They're telling you it's too soon and go slower. If they start staring at the other cat, this is where you're going to use your look, which is why it's very important that you start training look right away. Harness training can take a little more time because it's going to be a while before you're actually at a face-to-face meeting. You do want to get that done early in the process, but look is very, very important to get trained before you start the peak stage. So what you're going to do is you're going to raise that covering. Let's say you raise it and everybody's okay, not necessarily fully happy, but they're okay. They can deal with it. Then you're going to raise it 2 more inches the next day and 2 more inches the next day until it's probably, above the cat's heads as they're sitting down. So another 18, 24 inches. Then you can take it off completely because then they're within full view of one another. Now you're left with a visual barrier with no covering to it, and they're still eating on either sides of that barrier. If they come nose to the barrier and they sniff, 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 and then it's that's okay, long as that's all there is. All right. But swatting, lunging is not okay. You need to stop and take a step back. The cats will always tell you when it's time to go to the next step. If there's stress to that extreme, that means it's too much. Put it back down. I don't want to see that much of that other cat right now. So it's natural for them to kind of go up and look closer. It's natural for them to hiss. Hissing means fear. I'm afraid. And of course they're afraid because they have a new territory invader in their home and they're in the middle of a stressful introduction process. And so it's going to be natural for a hiss to happen. Don't let that freak you out. But if it progresses beyond a hiss, then take a step back. So again, continue raising that 2 inches a day. I have a visual barrier of my own right now. Um, Continue all the good things, the pray play, the treat toss, that kind of thing, the meals at the door. Now, once everybody's been okay, we haven't had any of the hissing, lunging, everybody's eating meals together. Maybe they're sitting there looking at each other and calm and they're grooming in front of each other. That's another really good sign. Then it's time for a face-to-face meeting. You've harness trained and leash trained both cats. So we're gonna try it. We've space swapped. Everything smells like everything. Everything seems to be going okay. Might not be going great, but it's going okay. And you'll know when there's no confrontational reactions from either cat at that fully exposed gate. You want to harness and leash one or more of the cats. You want to do this after they've eaten. Again, you don't want to do this when they're hungry or hangry because that's going to have added stress to it and competition for resources that we don't need. So after they've eaten, usually for most families, this is nighttime. They've had their supper and maybe everybody's settling in to watch TV or movie or something like that. that's a good time to try to do this. And so it's a calm time. Everybody's eating. We're going to do it in a calm space. Usually the living room is a good place to do this. Sometimes you have to do it in the sanctuary room, and that's okay too. And so what you'll want to do if it's sanctuary room, get the cat and the new cat in the sanctuary room harnessed and leashed up, get the other cat harnessed and leashed up, open the gate, walk the cat in, let them explore space, that kind of thing. If staring starts between them, use your look. You've got that. Toss a toy or a treat, dab a bit of lick and lap on the floor to distract them, to break that look. Allow them to be in control. It's very, very important for a cat to feel like it's in control always, absolutely always. And we're really in control, but we want the cat to think it's in control. They're happier that way. So we allow them to explore around the room. And, as long as they're not lunging at the other cat or trying to race towards them, it's okay. They can get, within about, I'd say the very first meeting, you don't want to go nose to nose necessarily. Let them get within about 4 feet of one another. It doesn't need to be long. This should be maybe 10 minutes, and you always want to end on a good note. You can close the space between the cats, but the very first time, don't let them get closer than about 4 feet. Only good things happen during this meeting. And then you stop. And then the next day, you do it again. You maybe let them get a little closer and you let it go on a little longer. Maybe it's 20 minutes the second day. So you're controlling the distance and the duration, right? So control that carefully. You want to close the distance and expand the duration each time. But if something happens, like you start seeing aggressive, you need to stop. Then it's not time. Keep them farther apart. Take a step back. Now, introducing to dogs is a little different because cats don't see dogs as a territory invader. They may see them as a predator, but a cat's gonna see a dog entirely differently than it does a cat. But I think it's still a good idea to follow most of those previous steps, feeding in proximity, even swapping spaces, even though dogs don't scent like cats do. I think it's important that the cat get the dog scent in their area so that's not so jarring when they get out to the rest of the house. Now, in this case, you want to contain the dog. Some trainers will tell you put the cat in a carrier and let the dog come around and sniff it. That's got to be the most terrifying thing for a cat to experience because the cat's trapped. The cat has no control. It can't escape. It's a horribly stressful thing, and they're going to associate that stress with the dog. But you could put the dog in a crate. That would be okay, and let the cat go explore the dog. You could put the dog certainly on a leash so that the dog can't lunge at the cat or run around with its nose up its butt and things like that. So always in the first meetings, contain the dog and let the cat freely explore and get as close as it wants to the dog and the dog's space. And don't react when the cat shows dominance as long as the dog's not injured. It's totally expected that that cat's going to go up to the dog and sniff, sniff, whack, and swat it across the face because the cat needs to say, I'm boss. This is my place. I'm in control. I don't recognize any of your alpha dog status. I am now the leader in this household of all y'all, people, dogs, guinea pigs, fish, everybody. Cat's got to express that because the cat thinks that. So don't overreact when it pops the dog. As long as, the dog's not getting injured, of course. Trim your cat's nails so that the dog can't get seriously hurt. And have realistic expectations of how these two are going to get along. This is a little unrealistic over here, right? Just like the two cats, you don't get a second cat and expect that they're eventually going to curl up and sleep together. Probably not. And same thing with your dog and cat. They might, which would be awesome. It happens. I see pictures of it on social media all the time. But have realistic expectations as long as they can safely coexist. That's what we're after. So you do that slow introduction process just like we did with the cats and extend that time that they're face to face with the dog in control. A cat maybe too if it's one that's actually lunging and attacking the dog, but that's usually more rare. So let's say you want to get a kitten for your older cat. This is probably the second most common behavior consult I have. Cat's not getting along because they have a 9-year-old cat and they adopted a kitten. So just don't, please don't do that. It is not, it's cruel. It's cruel to your older cat and it's cruel to your kitten because he doesn't have anybody in the house that's got the level of energy that he does. So just don't do it. Wait until your older cat passes and then get new kittens. If you've already made that mistake, then get a pair of kittens so that at least they have somebody to play with. And even that doesn't go well. I have a case right now of intercat aggression where they did just that. They have two very old cats, one's 8, one's 19, and then they got a pair of kittens. And it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. The 19-year-old cat lives on its own in a bedroom, doesn't get to see any of the other cats or any other part of the house, and it seems okay with that, so that's probably fine. The poor kittens, they get excluded from parts of the house, and they're curious about the 8-year-old cat, and every time they run up to sniff it, a fight starts. The old cat's like, "Get out of my face, you youngster." It doesn't go well. If you have to do it, then your job is to play with those kittens, whether it's one or two, endlessly. And I mean endlessly. You have to wear them out. If you don't wear them out, they're going to wear out your older cat. You have to remember that, cat, well, we'll talk about playing later and why it's so important, but with kittens, there is no creature on this planet that has as much energy as a kitten. And you guys all know what I'm talking about. And so you've got to play with that kitten so that it doesn't want to attack your older cat and play with your older cat. You have to make sure the older cat has a place to escape them. So Pico has a setup kind of like this. This isn't Pico or his setup, but he's got steps that go up to a very high bed on the wall so that kittens can't get to him. And older cats need a place to retreat to. Ideally, they would have their own sanctuary room with a microchip activated door so nobody but they could get in. Excuse me while I reinforce bad behavior here. Can you come up there, please? Come on. No, no, no. This is not a. Come on, come on, come on. So we're supposed to ignore unwanted behavior, but there's a lot of breakable stuff up there. So I need to move the chairs where you can't access it. So introducing them to your family. You want to do gradual introductions, right? So you can do this during the swapping process if you want. Make sure that, again, any introductions that we're having, especially with kids, but other family members even too, and friends, happen with good things, treats, mealtime. Maybe the kids start to feed the cats. That's a really great way for them to meet one another. And the kids very gently and slowly begin to touch the cats. And the kids are taught that the cats get to lead those petting sessions, that you only pet a cat when the cat asks for it. Never overwhelm the cat with, a toddler in its early stages. Again, while good things are happening, maybe you teach the kids love to prey play with cats too, because they love to have the cats follow them around as they're dragging a rope or a ribbon or something like that. So absolutely have the kids do play, feed them, things like that. Watch the cat's body language, not the kids, but the cat's body language real close for signs of discomfort. And if they are showing that they're afraid or not feeling comfortable with this interaction, then stop. Now, let's say that you did all those steps and everything's going okay between these two cats. You know, they're not best friends because we have realistic expectations, but they're living in the same space and there's, fur's not flying and things are going okay. But it's very, very, very important to maintain peace for a long period of time for cats to feel like they have ample resources. This is super, super, super important. So, you're going to get all this lined up while you're doing the introduction process. And you got to have multiple resources or there's going to be a lot of stress. So, resources for a cat, what does that look like? It's litter boxes. So, you need to have one more litter box than the number of cats. So, the couple I met with last night had 3 cats. They got to have 4 litter boxes in their home and they need to be uncovered because cats are very wary of going into a covered litter box and what's going to ambush them when they come out. Uncovered lowers the stress. They need to be spread out throughout the home so that not any one cat can block the path to all the litter boxes. I have a lot of people go, okay, I've got 2 cats, I got 3 litter boxes, and they're all lined up in the utility room. No, that doesn't work. That's like having one litter box. So they got to be spread out in the home. They need to be positioned in places where a cat has 2 ways to escape. So think about it, that other cat is coming to threaten it and they want to get out of there. They need to have another exit route from where that cat is approaching. Frequent meals. In the wild, a cat's going to eat 10 to 20 small meals a day. So if you feed your cats 2 meals a day, that's like us eating about every third day. And it's very stressful. And there will be competition for food if you don't feed frequent meals. I suggest the 4, morning, lunch, supper, right before you go to bed. There are great food timers out there. If you need links to those, just email me. Proper nutrition. If you feed a cat only a dry food diet, they're going to be mildly dehydrated their whole lives. That can lead to urinary tract infections, crystals, kidney failure, all kinds of things. And when they're dehydrated, just like us, they feel cranky. When I'm real dehydrated, I'm kind of tired and sleepy and I don't feel good. Your cats aren't going to feel good if they're not getting the nutrition that they need. If you need help with nutrition in your cats, reach out. I'm happy to help you with that. Keep their bowls 4 feet apart. Even if they're best of buds now, don't feed them any closer than 4 feet. I like to feed them out of eyesight of one another. So like if you have a kitchen island, feed one on one side and one on the other so that they're not seeing each other. It's still good for them to be eating in proximity so that a good thing is happening in the proximity of the other cat, just not too close because that is very stressful. Treat puzzles are a great way for them to forage and have mental stimulation, and that helps reduce some of that stress. Think about these guys. I told you early on that they're basically wildcats and we're keeping them in captivity. So even in the most ideal of environments, there is stress stacking going on for cats. So we got to make sure that they have lots of opportunities to let some of that pressure off and release some of that stress. Scratching posts by the resources. It's in their natural behavior to scratch, to scent mark. So put scratching posts not only, by the way, by the door to your sanctuary room, but put it by a litter box room or put it by the food bowls, that kind of thing. Put it by resources. Put it by where you are. You're a resource too. Pray play with them individually, not together, and often. Remember when I said they don't hunt together? This is why we don't pray play together. If you pray play with multiple cats, you'll have one dominating the session and the others will be kind of like, and they'll wander off. In the wild, they're going to spend 6 hours a day hunting. If we do not simulate that hunting sequence for them in the home, they will get very stressed. They also, when they when they hunt and they get their prey and they deliver that kill bite, it releases a boost of serotonin in their brain. So that's very, very, very important for cats to feel calm. And so when you're prey playing with them, let them catch the prey frequently and absolutely always let them bite it. It's not a keep away type of session. They need to have lots of opportunities to climb. That's also in their nature. They like to get up high and survey things and make sure no threats are coming. And if you have multi cats, they need multi of everything. When we say ample resources, that means not just one climbing opportunity, but two or three climbing opportunities so that everybody can do it if they feel like they need to. Remember that they always need two escape routes in everything. So if you're building a wall where they have stair steps going up to a cool bench or bed or kind of thing, there needs to be another escape route. That could be a bookshelf or shelves or another set of steps or something like that. They need self-entertainment when you're not there. Cat TV on YouTube is good. Thingamastring is great. Anything, there's that thing that goes under the cover. There's motion activated toys. There's starting to be better options for those on the market these days, but they need entertainment when you're not there to entertain them. Multiple beds and sunny spots. Those are usually the favorite places. So if you're using window beds, every window needs a bed so that every cat can be in the window into bed at the same time. And affection, whatever that cat wants. That doesn't mean you got to pet every cat the same way for the same amount of time. You know which of your cats likes what amount of affection and give them that. That is a resource to them. You paying attention to them, looking at them, talking to them, interacting with them. And routines, very, very, very important that you establish a routine in the home and keep it. Okay, now how do we recognize stress between two cats? So the staring we talked about, maybe one cat all of a sudden starts hiding from the other cat or avoiding the other cat. You notice that the cat's routines change. Maybe one doesn't come to eat when it is supposed to, when it's mealtime. You have litter box issues. That's a telltale sign. Food insecurities, all of a sudden, they start grappling at mealtime. And then the body language. Watch for their whiskers to be back. See how this cat's whiskers are back, and this one's also, wary. Head low. See how these cats' heads are low? They're not above the plane of their back. That's a confrontational gesture between cats. Tail low. Same thing with the tail. Tail's high, cat's happy. Tail is on the same plane as the back. That means the cat is wary. Cat tail's low, not feeling great. And swishing means concern. Obviously, vocalizing, yowling at one another would be a cause for concern. So let's say you have two cats, they've been living together for a while. Do we ever need to do a reintroduction? You bet we do. And some things that make it so is what's called non-recognition aggression. So cats recognize each other by the way they smell. If you take one of your cats to the vet and you bring it home and you just let it out, your home cat that didn't go to the vet is going to think it's a new cat. And this is going to start a fight, just like bringing home a new cat and plopping it down. So when you bring a cat home from the vet, always put it in a sanctuary room so that it has a few days, day or two, at least 24 hours minimum, to get the house smells back on them. The other thing I do is you could kind of dust both cats with brewer's yeast so that they smell alike. That helps a little bit too. But anytime they don't recognize one another. If you have outside cats, community cats that they can see, they will always redirect that aggression to the other cat in the homes. They're all amped up. They got territory invaders coming. They're trying to get in here and get our stuff. And so outside cats that cause a redirected conflict, you might need to do a reintroduction. You have major changes. You have a new baby, new family members, you've moved, things like that. Sometimes you'll have to do a reintroduction because the cats will suddenly stop getting along because of that. If there's any serious changes in their behavior of not getting along with one another, it's time to do a reintroduction. When nothing else is de-escalating, like there's tension between them, and you've done everything we've talked about, and it's just not getting better, it's time to do a reintroduction. Now, the good news is it usually goes quicker than the initial introductions do because they have a relationship foundation to return to. They've got a place to get back to. So it does usually go faster than the initial one, but it basically follows these same steps: separation, time, routine, slow introduction, good things happening. So, empathy, patience, and practical tools. You want to lead with empathy of the situation for both the cat and people and yourself, of course. Reset expectations. This probably isn't going to go fast. This may take months. It may take a very long time. And regression, think of regression not as failure, like, oh my gosh, now they're hissing and swatting at the gate. It's feedback. The cat's telling you that's too stressful for me. So reframe some of those things in your mind and celebrate those tiny wins. Oh my gosh, they didn't stare at each other today. That's great. Now they may do it again tomorrow, but every time they don't, celebrate those tiny wins when you get them. And remember that cats take emotional cues for human. If you're all amped up and, anxious about this whole process, they're going to be anxious about it too. They say that cats see our mind pictures. So if you're projecting that this is going to go bad, the cats are going to think that that's the way it should go, and they're going to follow that little movie you're playing for yourself. So don't do that. Have good, positive affirmations for yourself and for the situation and the process so that your emotions remain in check and the cats don't feed off of them. Make environmental adjustments as needed as you go along. Just know that this is a fluid process. It's not as it's rigid in some senses, but you see things aren't working, change them up a little bit so that maybe a little different does. Remember that go slower to go faster. Patience early in this process must save you a lot of stress. Remember that the couple that I consulted with last night, 18 months they have been trying to get their cats integrated. And had they just gone slower and done it right in the beginning, they'd have all been living happily the last year. And when two people move in together, there's enough stress and just trying to figure all that out. You don't need your cat families having issues also. So go slower. Don't try to shortcut it. And know your limits. If you get to a point where it is just not working, then you can retain me for a consultation and I'll help you figure out where it's gone wrong and give you some ideas of what you might need to do next. Always recommend your adopters seek professional help if they have, already exhausted all these do-it-yourself resources. Okay. That's it. How much over did we run? Yes, we ran over. I figured we would. Okay, questions. Talk to me. So my mom's senior friend, let me read your chats now, wants to adopt a tiny kitten as a friend for her old lady cat. And I'm trying to gently redirect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a point where you let go of the gently redirect and say, no, this is not good. Don't do it, and find an alternative. My 6 foot gate and a cat door at the bottom has been my favorite tool the last 7 months. Yeah, good, good, good. Yeah, and I know people had to leave because we ran over. Any questions for those of you still with us? No? Everybody good? Okay.
This was great, Molly.
Oh,
Thank you. Yeah, a lot
good,
of helpful information.
good, good. Like I said, it will be recorded and I'll have it on my YouTube channel. So that's another good area of resource for you and your adopters. There's all kinds of great webinars out there that Dallas Pets Labs has made available. So definitely go out there and share it. And hopefully people will listen and you can help and we will have fewer returns. And Jen, so Jen's on. Good, good. Hi, Jen. And Church says hi. He actually did finally go lay in a bed and give up on trying to make me shut up. So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining me today. I very much appreciate it. And take care and make great adoptions and good introductions.
Thank you, Molly. We appreciate you.
Thank you.